This lesson is called Play It Like You Mean It. And it's teaching to play with feeling and emotion is not something you really be taught, uh, but it is an important part of playing. Um, when people read out of a book, you might notice sometimes that their speech pattern becomes stilted and forced. It's almost like they're just reciting the words, really not knowing where they're going with it. And sometimes when we're learning to play a hard lick or we're playing through a scale pattern, if we find that it's challenging, sometimes we get that stilted sound to our playing. It gets to sound like it's just like we're playing up a scale, or we're just trying to play. If something, especially something out of our reach. But like in Figure One, here's a simple 5-note phrase, and to play it with feel is not that hard. If you just recite the lick, like it just sounds like you're just trying to play the notes. But if you take your time with it, and you get time in there to add your vibrato, and you're not just trying to make it through it like that. You want to feel, you want each note, you want the phrase to sound natural, and it has to mimic uh, like something you would speak and not something that you would read. And now in Figure 2 is the scale pattern that we've been playing throughout the course. And you can play up the scale pattern like it's some kind of exercise, but we don't want that. We want to play up the scale pattern like it's a, a living, breathing music piece. We could play up it, like I said, like it was a technical thing. We're just playing up the scale pattern. We just go. But that has no pizzazz. What we want to do is pauses, little short pauses, or playing one part of it harder than the next. We could play the first 2 notes soft and play the third note hard. Or we could, and what you want to avoid is something like. Just all the notes sound the same, and it's just sound like we're, doing an exercise, and that's not what we want. Figure 3 is another example. Here's kind of, if you was reading out of the book, it might sound something like, which, maybe to the, somebody that you're playing for, maybe that sounds cool to them, but we want more out of our playing. We want to. And it's just little subtle differences that gets that, and it's not something you can really force on yourself, but with lots of practice and not really worrying about what you're playing, I think you'll get better results. Figure 4 is just another example of something. That sounds kind of boring. What we want to do is. And we can, when we slide up, we can slide up quicker or slower, or just we're adding variety to it. We're adding a little character to it, and if you're feeling mad, you might want to play a little harder. If you're feeling sad, you might want to, something. Something a little more slender or smoother. The sky's the limit. And let's do one more example. Hopefully I'm making a point. Figure 5 is similar to Figure 4. Uh, the technical way would be, which just sounds kind of boring. So again, we want to either dig in our notes or stagger our playing. So kind of a good exercise for you would be to just take licks like these 5 licks I've shown you and play them as many different ways as you can. Don't worry about, if it's a quarter note or if it's 8th note. Don't worry about that. Take the same lick and play it over and over again, and each time make it sound different. You're playing the same notes, but we're changing up how hard we play the notes, or how soft, or how quick we slide, or so many variations you can do. You can add little variations. See how many different ways you can make a sound. Don't just go. That's boring. We don't want that. We want. Just play around with the notes and make it sound natural. See how many different ways you can make it sound. And, step back and say, does this sound clinical or technical? Because we don't want that in the blues. We want soulful and bluesy. And, that's ultimately the point. Again, it's not to show off. It's not to, show your skills. It's just about to express, phrases and licks in a bluesy manner. So take these licks, or take your own licks that you make your own licks up, and see how many different ways you can make them sound. It's almost like, you're changing speech patterns up, phrase patterns, how you say it, each time change it up and see how that works for you. And that's all for today.